But what is your theory of change? How are we to believe, let's say, in a world where we have genuinely free and fair elections and the press doesn't try to suppress you, and you win, what would you do differently?
I wouldn't care about getting reelected. To do what I want to do, first of all, nothing makes me special.
So one thing that I definitely appreciate about Marianne Williamson, okay, is that she is running as a Democrat, okay, and it's some little problems I can kind of nitpick with that. But one thing that she is doing that a lot of candidates haven't done since like Bernie Sanders is have the spine, have the balls, okay, to literally by name call out Joe Biden and say, hey, you voting for Joe Biden is only going to get you the same results. Voting for Joe Biden is not going to force him to be progressive and get the things that you know for a fact that 80-70% of Americans agree on. You're not going to get that with Joe Biden. And I love how candidates like Marianne and Cornel West are able to say that freely and know that is going to ruffle a lot of feathers from the Democratic voters, unlike Republicans where, you have Vivek, you have Ron DeSantis, a lot of Tim Scott. They are afraid to point out Donald Trump and his mistakes and some of the things that they know was a failure in his presidency, and they're afraid to point that out because they don't want to isolate or cast out potential voters. You know what I'm saying? And when you're playing that kind of game, like, then you got to really censor, you got to really craft the way that you talk to people. And when normal people like myself hear you speak, you sound like an idiot, because it's like, why are you trying to tiptoe around something so obvious? Trump was a lame president. Trump was whack. You know what I'm saying? And you trying to tiptoe around that is not benefiting you. And I love that Cornel West, Marianne Williamson are not trying to tiptoe around Joe Biden. So let's go ahead, listen to this interview with Marianne Williamson with TYT, and she is relentless. She is just going after Joe Biden, and she does not care about a popularity contest. She doesn't care about, making headlines saying that she's talking about. She is going full force, and something about that I like. You know what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and watch this interview, and let's have that conversation. So, of course, if you guys want to watch the entire 22 minutes, definitely go to the Young Turks YouTube channel so you can watch the whole thing. I'm just going to kind of pick out 3 major conversations I think kind of was a highlight in my perception. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. And let's have that conversation.
Not thinking, well, what is the left going to do? That's just not where they live.
But it's interesting because the power players in the media, the power players in Washington seem to want to really focus on what divides Americans. And I think that is a nonpartisan effort. The unwillingness to really talk about what American voters overwhelmingly agree on as opposed to what they disagree on?
Because they're creating a false dichotomy. They create look over here, because they don't want you to look up there.
Of course.
It's a don't look up thing. The real axis is between the powerful and the powerless. The real axis is between those who have capital and easy access to capital versus those who are just struggling to get by. And I think enough people, at least in my experience, are open to hearing that. And of course, they don't want to look at what's real because they do more. This is legalized bribery we've got here. They do more to serve the short-term profit maximization of their donors than to serve the expressed will of their constituents. Not just the safety, health, and well-being of their constituents, but even the expressed will of their constituents. That's how deep the corruption is. And
man, I just love how she's breaking that down, because if you don't know this by now, I have no idea where you kind of been living. One thing I wish they would handle, and I want at least one of these politicians to point this out, is donation from these companies, because obviously if big pharma, big tech, oil, pharmaceutical companies is paying you thousands upon thousands of dollars for your campaign, you think they're doing that because they like you? You think they're giving you money because they think you're a cool guy? No. They gonna give you this money and you gonna have to repay it if you get back into office, or if you get into office. You gonna owe them some favors. And then of course those favors 9 times out of 10 are not beneficial to regular folks like you and me. Obviously, like we don't need stats and polls to prove that. You know what I'm saying? So and with the culture wars, like she was saying, a lot of these politicians, some on the left too, want you to be focused on these pointless conversations that are so beyond of what we need as an entire country, such as education, healthcare, higher wages. We need to have those conversations, but we want to spend another year or two talking about trans in sports. You know what I'm saying? Like, they want us talking about that as long as possible. And I am done having that conversation. I want to have the conversations that are beneficial for my everyday living. That's pretty simple, right? So I'm glad that she's pointing that out. And a lot of politicians don't want to say that.
The expressed will of their constituents. That's how deep the corruption is. And my sense out in America is people are so ready to go past whether or not they see this. The real question is, okay, what are we going to do about it? And continuing to endorse Biden is not pushing Biden left.
Ooh, definitely not.
Continuing to go past whether or not they see this. The real question is, okay, what are we going to do about it? And continuing to endorse Biden is not pushing Biden left.
Definitely.
Bars. That is straight bar. You cannot expect to vote for an individual that you know is not going to fight for the things that will progressively move forward society in a better position. They're not going to fight for that. Joe Biden is not going to fight for that. Why vote for him? And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, the elections is really going to be based around Trump and Joe Biden. So why even vote for anybody? Well, you having that same thought process with millions of other people who seem to not understand their power as, a voting citizen. You're just kind of doing what then? Why are you so concerned about higher wages, healthcare, education? Why are you concerned about these things if you're going to continue to buy into the lies that it's only going to be 2 people, Trump and Joe Biden? Like, it's only going to be those 2 people if we allow it. Like, can't you like read some history, see how citizens mobilized and they changed their circumstances? They didn't just give in and just let things happen. We would still be in a bad situation, 50, 60, 70 years ago if people just let things happen. Like, no, you have to be willing to actually fight for what you want and not just give in. Like, what has any valuable historic event happen when people just gave in and just let things happen just because? No, nothing. I mean, that's the answer. So it's like, stop using that same lame excuse, the same fear-mongering tactic that a lot of these politicians use just to keep you voting for, the elite on both Republicans and Democratic side. So, I mean,
to drown out candidates that want to challenge the incumbent.
And they have been saying that, and it's very undemocratic. And the American people, particularly at this time, should be listening to all of the options. They should be hearing what President Biden has planned for 4 years, what do I have planned for the next 4 years, and what does Bobby Kennedy have planned for the next 4 years? Because those are very different agendas. And it should be the American people who make the decision. It should not be like a bunch of men 100 years ago smoking cigars deciding who the candidate will be. And the traditional role of the Democratic Party is to stand to the back until the electorate has decided. But hey, it's a major multi-billion dollar corporation. That's really what we're talking about here. And there is institutional resistance to anyone but Biden because they've decided it for now. And the larger institutional resistance is the system itself. And the entire matrix of corporate tyrants, whether it's insurance, pharmaceutical, big ag, big chemical, big food, gun manufacturers and chemical companies and big oil and defense contractors. And all that the political parties are doing is chopping wood and carrying water for them because those are their donors. And that's what I think Americans are understanding. It's a bigger picture. And it really is, we need a new progressive era to push back against the second golden age, just like what happened before.
So I want to dive into that.
I mean, if you're a Republican or you're a diehard Joe Biden fan, what is she saying that's incorrect? Don't worry, I'll wait for you to reply in the comments. What is she saying that's incorrect? And like I said before, if these corporations, these industries are paying thousands upon thousands of dollars to donate to these campaigns, what do you think is what do you think the conversation is behind closed doors? Hey, do not, and this is just me paraphrasing, okay? I believe the conversation is somewhat around, do not make it harder for me and my business to make money. I don't want no regulations. I don't want no sort of policy changes. Don't prevent us from making money. Now, of course, they're probably saying it in a bit more, professional manner. You know what I'm saying? They got the suit and ties, but essentially that's the conversation. And of course, those same policies that are in place are not beneficial for regular folks like you and me. This is politics 101 here, at least in 2023. Like, this is so simple. I don't understand why this is not the center of a lot of conversations when it comes to these politicians. Hey, you're running for president. Who's donating to your campaign? What companies? Yeah, that's not gonna work. I forget the senator. But I mean, it's just a lot of politicians that is so blatant, so obvious that a lot of their decisions is based on their donors and based on what affects them personally. You know what I'm saying? So why are we still allowing politicians to collect this kind of money?
I apologize for the way I phrase this, and I hope you don't take offense to it, but I want to know, what do you think makes you special? Because we have several Justice Democrats elected into Congress. They're not corrupt. They didn't take corporate money. They didn't take corporate PAC money. They don't have big donors. They certainly took small dollar donors, and they said everything that you're telling us right now. But what is your theory of change? How are we to believe, let's say, in a world where we have genuinely free and fair elections and the press doesn't try to suppress you, and you win? What would you do differently?
And I wouldn't care about getting reelected. To do what I want to do, first of all, nothing makes me special, but I'm here. That's the only thing, is that I'm here. Yeah. I'm not thinking about, they'll get mad at me and they'll take my committee assignment away and I won't get Nancy's or whomever's or Hakeem's cell phone number anymore, and they won't primary me if I'm a good girl and I'll play along, or a good boy. That's the only thing. It's not special. It's just I'm not one of them. They can't do anything for me. And somebody has, that's why I think it has to be somebody from the outside at this point. Because they, and I think I heard you say that also, what that system says is that you're only qualified to do this if you are qualified to maintain and perpetuate the system as it is. My qualification is that I know how to disrupt it. How do I know? I'm doing it. I'm right here, right now. Somebody has to just say the quiet part out loud. So everything that you said, yeah, they're willing to say it within the context of permission granted by the system. I would be more like Roosevelt. I welcome their hatred. I welcome their hatred. And I would govern in a way that nobody could possibly do if they were thinking about even trying to be reelected. I think of myself as, I want to give this country a chiropractic adjustment. The people need our, the government needs its heart, and the people need our spine, for God's sake. And then do it for 4 years, get in there, and then hand it over to a younger generation that deserves it at this point.
Now, of course, I would just assume that she would want to, if she did get reelected and still was able to accomplish all the things that she wants to. Of course, I'm pretty sure she'll, go for another term. But I think that's probably the most important characteristic of a politician. And a lot of these politicians, who do become president, they critique their presidency based off of trying to get a second term, because nobody wants to be a one-term president. I'm pretty sure that's embarrassing. And so they're not going to ruffle feathers. They're not going to upset people. They're not going to go too far with things because they want to play it safe. They want to be lukewarm. You know what I'm saying? So they could get reelected. And that's one thing I didn't like about Biden with his student loan debt. You could have accomplished that your first term. But there's a lot of back and forth, this compared to that. I think he didn't want to do it so he can reassure a second term by saying, hey, if you reelect me again, now I can, put this in place and I figured this out. You telling me you got all these people behind you and you just now figuring that out? If that's the case, no. You're trying to play me for a sucker to be like, oh, if I give you a second term, then you're going to be able to pursue X, Y, and Z. No, I do not want that. I want a politician who's going to go in there, guns blazing, hypothetically, of course, not for real, but go in there, guns blazing, saying, hey, I'm going to make change like I ain't going to see a second term. I ain't going to see it, so I'm going to do what I can, get all these things fixed up, and let the chips fall where they may. Now, of course, I don't know Marianne Williamson personally. I don't know her heart. I am not God. You know what I'm saying? I don't know her deep, darkest intentions when it comes to running for president. I don't know. She could just be doing all this for her upcoming book. I don't know. But what I do know is we're going to get the same results with Joe Biden. We're going to get the same results with Trump. I want somebody different. And if Marianne Williamson is just a grifter and she's just lying to us all, well, give her an opportunity to prove me wrong. But until then, she is saying and acting as someone who is not trying to follow the status quo. And then if she does get into office and it finds out that she's just another, Joe Biden, but just a female form, well, I would like to guarantee that she will just have the one term. She's in, I get her out. You know what I'm saying? But am I wrong? Am I just tripping? Am I just seeing Marianne Williamson too high of a pedestal here? You know what I'm saying? If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. And like always, let's have that conversation.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to join the conversation by subscribing. Make sure to tune in next time, and like always, power to you Power to me. Power to the people. Power to the pod.